All of that helps me frame a narrative. Okay, a narrative on what I think. And what is narrative for the folks that don't know what that means? That's not bias. A narrative is when prices are behaving a specific way, not necessarily running one direction. Okay, narrative many times is going to a direction for the purposes of creating a event, then a real move takes place. That's narrative. Okay, so it's kind of like a game plan. Um, I think of it like a football player's coach. Okay, he teaches these players, and folks, listen. I'm not a sports fan. I don't fucking like football. I don't like any kind of sport like that. But I do understand that a coach teaches his players or her players a set of plays. Okay, you player A and you player B, you run this direction and you run that direction, and you as a quarterback, you pass it to this person over here that no one will be paying attention to, and hopefully they can run to the goal. Okay, they don't just have one model, they don't have one play. So while in the beginning you should be reaching for one to work with, eventually you're going to have a couple models, but you're always going to have that one flea flicker. You like that? You like that? I knew one play. That's about all the fuck I know. Okay, all I know is I had a friend in school that they thought that was the flea flicker, and I was like, that's a silly ass fucking name. I'm not going to play football because that's a gay ass name. So anyway, the point is this. Oh shit, social media's gonna come from. He said it's gay. Who gives a fuck? Okay, who cares? The bottom line is that that coach is teaching you a multitude as an army, as a playing team. Okay, a team of gladiators that's trying to overcome someone else's goalpost. That idea can't come on the heels of one approach or one attempt or one model. You have to have what? You have to have an arsenal. You have to have a way to navigate because that other team is going to have a defense and they're going to be trying to run over you and keep you from getting that goal. So when we're looking at a narrative, I'm teaching you how you have to anticipate the likely scenarios. It's not a single scenario all the time. There's some times where I would be willing to expect or anticipate price behaving a specific way for this function to unfold in price. Run up to go into buy side. Why? Why would it want to go up the buy side? To take those participants out of the marketplace that were short or trick them into being going long for the very explicit purposes of going lower. To take that liquidity, use it as a counterparty to handshake with it and go lower and do what? Buy at a lower price below an old low where sell stops are resting and you have willing participants to sell to you at a low price. That's narrative. Bias, what makes the differentiation between bias and narrative? Narrative is a ebb and flow, a rhyme and reason. Bias is a one directional premise. It's going up or it's going down. That's it. Now, narrative is the first thing that's required. Then once it gets to that event driven price and time, then you have a bias. The bias is now bearish. The bias is now bullish. But prior to bias, there has to be a narrative that's understood by you. If you're sitting down in front of your charts instantly, okay, with no pretense or expected, what price may should do higher or lower, and you like, oh, I'm going to go in and start trading, you're gambling. You have to have something expected in price action. You have to anticipate it, know what it's likely to do. And if you don't do that or have that, you shouldn't ever try to enter. Because what you're doing is you're impulsively chasing what you think you see in the chart right then and there. Now, there is a practice, there's a drill I put my students through. I do it with myself still, is keep myself fresh, and real snappy with my decision making. And I teach my sons to look at it this way too, where they'll tell me a time frame, just come off the cuff with some kind of random number. And whatever that number is, I put that in as a time frame. And I have to immediately, as soon as the chart opens up when the markets are live, I tell them, okay, as soon as it opens up, it's there. I have to tell them where it's going to go to next, right then and there. That's a real fun thing to do. And it's fascinating to them when they see I'm right. But the few times that I'm wrong, it's okay. It's okay. And that's what it's going to be like for you when you first start to use these concepts. Sometimes it's going to work. And the few times that you're going to struggle with it, You need to see past it, because everything is going to be, far from 100%. Nobody's going to be 100%. I'm not 100%. You're not going to be 100%. And you have to accept that. So the way you accept it, the way you navigate price, the way you build a model and trust that model is having the understanding of a narrative in price. Why will price likely do a specific thing? And why shouldn't it do another thing? And by having that as the beginning foundations to what and why you're trading, then you can trust a bias. See, that's the part that all of you say, if ICT could just teach me how to know the bias and I could trust the bias all the time, I would make money. That's bullshit. You would screw it up somewhere else. You would rush to get in. You wouldn't use a stop loss, and normal static volatility would squeeze against you, and you'll close the trade, and then it'll go in where you thought it was, and you'll blame me or blame the concepts don't work. When they do, you just are fucking up. The idea of looking for bias is not the answer. Narrative is. Why should it behave a specific way? Why should it go to a specific pool of liquidity? Why should it reprice to an inefficiency? Because that's all it's doing. That's all price is doing. But if you try to go around or circumvent the need to determine a narrative, and you're trying to derive a bias without that stage or step in the process, that's why you're having a hard time determining bias. That's the missing part. But you don't want to listen to these long videos and discussions where I'm teaching you it. You want it to be easy. Like, get on the bike. I don't mind getting on the bike and falling off a few times, but as long as I figure it out in the hour and I'm pedaling and going around the neighborhood with my friends with their bikes, that's what I'm looking for. That's not how trading is. I wish it was like that. For my own children's sake, I wish it was like that. I wish it would have been like that for me. Yeah, for my paid students that paid me, I wish it would have been like that for them. Every one of my profitable students will honestly tell you it's harder than you think it's going to be. It's going to take longer than you want it to be. But if you want it, you'll submit to it and you'll get there at the right time.